Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. It's the latest twist in the ongoing saga of the Surrey Police. Mike Farnworth, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, says all members of the Surrey Police Board have been suspended, and he's appointed former Abbotsford Chief Constable Mike Surr as administrator. So is the province overstepping its role, or is this the only way forward in a troubled transition? And we'll take a look at the importance of fostering pets and everything you need to know about opening your home and your heart temporarily. I'm Amy Bell in for Michelle Eliot, and welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1 and live streaming on CBC Gem, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. Well, the issue of policing in Surrey continues this week. Yesterday, BC's Solicitor General Mike Farnworth has announced he is suspending the Surrey Police Board and appointing former Abbotsford Police Chief Mike Surr as administrator. In a statement, Minister Farnworth said he made this decision to assist with Surrey's transition from the RCMP to the Surrey Police Service. That statement went on to say that all members of the Surrey Police Board have been suspended, but they will resume their roles when the administrator's appointment ends. Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke chaired the board and opposes the transition away from the RCMP. The province and the city of Surrey have been locked in a battle for control over the policing decision for several months now. The transition began under former Surrey Mayor Doug McCallum, and current Mayor Brenda Locke was elected over a year ago with the promise to halt the transition and keep the RCMP. Here to tell us more is BC's Solicitor General Mike Farnworth. Good afternoon, Minister. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So in your statement about this move, you said that it was necessary to suspend the Surrey Police Board because they were limited in what they could do. How will one administrator be able to accomplish the transition to the Surrey Police Service?
There's a number of things that are important in terms of putting in the administrator. One, they now assume all the functions of the police board.
Okay.
I'm particularly concerned about the slow pace in transition from the city of Surrey. This will allow the administrator to be able to put together the budget that will go to the city of Surrey, work closely with the police chief, as well as the federal and RCMP in terms of moving the transition forward. I made the decision based on advice receiving from the Director of Police Services as well as the strategic advisor that I had put in, that the board had done, I think, a good job, but they really have brought things about as far as they could, and that the best way to move forward was to put in place an administrator.
And of course, Mayor Locke didn't mince words. She said that this is a provincial police takeover and that the suspension of the police board removes civilian oversight and governance of policing. What is your response to that statement?
No, this is not a provincial takeover. I have made a decision that Surrey must continue with the Surrey Police Service. The administrator is in fact a civilian. He's a recently retired police chief from Abbotsford. But I must say, I do find it interesting that the mayor is complaining about the elimination of civilian oversight. But when you had the RCMP in a municipality, there is no civilian oversight. There is no police board to which the RCMP answers to. That being said, there are those mechanisms that are in place right now, such as the Police Complaints Commissioner, that are civilian in nature, that do continue. And as I said a moment ago, the police chief is also the administrator is also a civilian.
The province has also said it will take action on housing if municipalities don't meet the set targets. Is this a trend people in BC could expect to see more of from the province?
We've been working very closely with local governments on a range of issues. In fact, changes to the Police Act, which will be coming, have been developed very much in consultation with local government. Recently, this past year, we gave over $1 billion to local government to spend on infrastructure in their communities. for them to spend on priorities in their own communities. So we have I believe, a very constructive relationship with local government. The issue in Surrey is related to policing, and only to policing in Surrey, as it's my responsibility to ensure safe and effective policing, not just in Surrey, but also in the province. And it is the largest RCMP detachment in the country, and what happens there impacts other communities. But the decision that I've made relates strictly to Surrey and does not relate to other local governments at all.
So more of an exception than the rule, you would say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that changes to the Police Act are being developed by consulting with local government, with Indigenous nations, with police, with a wide spectrum of people, and based a lot on the all-party committee on police reform, which brought forward a report that was unanimous in its recommendations.
Okay, how do you make sure not to undermine, I guess, municipal governments? How do you sort of keep that faith that they do have some autonomy?
Well, they have considerable autonomy. There's the Municipal Act in place. The approach that I've taken around changes to the Police Act to clarify, for example, how and when and under what conditions a municipality can change its police force, and they limit the minister. And I think a lot of local governments were wanting that clarity. So that is in place, again, was developed by talking with UBCM, understanding their concerns and making it clear that the changes I brought forward in the legislation earlier, particularly those that deal with Surrey, do just that. They only deal with the city of Surrey.
How should Surrey voters be feeling about this, particularly the ones that were in favor of keeping the RCMP? That is what Brenda Locke campaigned on. That's what she was voted in on. So how do these people that felt they were voting for that in good faith, how do we make sure they feel taken care of? What would you say to them?
I think the fundamental issue for people in the city of Surrey is they want to know that when they dial 911 and they need a police officer, that a police officer shows up on their door. That's what they want. I've heard from many people in Surrey who are like, they just want this over. They understand the province has made a decision. I made a decision based on the best information that was made available to me, analysis by experts within my own ministry, that I'm doing what is best on not just for the city of Surrey, but for the province as a whole. And that they want this over. And what they want is the city of Surrey to go, okay, it's time to get on with the program, to recognize the province has made a decision and continue that transition to the Surrey Police Service.
Right. Although, I mean, as you said, they just want to make sure that somebody shows up when they call 911. That's not been a problem, whether it's RCMP or Surrey Police. They would still have protection. It's just what they voted for in favor of.
As I said, there has been a diversity of opinion on this issue. I fully understand that. But my responsibility as minister is to ensure that there is safe and effective policing, not only in Surrey, but also in the rest of the province.
Okay.
And when I made the decision, I outlined those reasons why a transition back is not the right way to go, that we need to continue with the Surrey Police Service transition. That decision's been made. That is not going to change. My job now is to ensure that transition proceeds smoothly. It proceeds in a way that ensures that when people call 911, there is a police officer responding to that call.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. And the administrator will be ensuring that we are going to have that smooth transition.
It's come down a lot of times to money, and Mayor Locke has stated that the transition is estimated to cost Surrey taxpayers an additional $464 million over the next 10 years. Do you think that is a fair cost to residents?
Frankly, we have seen a range of numbers from the city of Surrey.
Okay. Minister Farnworth, it seems like your signal has frozen over there. If you're just joining us now, we have been talking to Minister Mike Farnworth about the latest in this, I guess some call it a saga with the Surrey Police. the ministry, the province has decided to step in now and suspend everyone that was involved with the Surrey Police Board, and they have appointed one solo person to take that role until further notice. So we were just hoping to get back to Minister Farnworth, but in the meantime, we can head to our next guest, and that is Peter German, of course, with the City of Surrey. We can always come back to Minister Farnworth if we do get a chance. Now we'll head to Mr. German. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Sorry, there's always that risk of technical snafus, just setting aside the best laid plans.
No, that's great.
Have you been listening in to the discussion
Yes,
that
I
we were
have.
having with Mr. Farnworth? What are some of your just initial thoughts on what he's been saying?
Well, I just find the whole thing quite surprising. Three points just jump out at me. First is there has never been an issue with Surrey residents not getting a police officer when they call 911. This has not been an issue at all. Public safety was not the reason for this transition. Surrey taxpayers have been well served by the RCMP since 1950. So that is not an issue.
Okay.
Secondly, the elimination of the board is separate from the city. The board was appointed by the minister. He's now suspending the operation of the board, which is a mechanism in our system for governance, civilian oversight, checks and balances, and replacing the board with one person. He appointed that board. That has nothing to do with the city. The city does have a couple of representatives or 3 representatives on the board, but the majority, it's a provincial board. And the third thing that I would point out, and I don't know how familiar the minister is with the actual operation of RCMP detachments, but in fact, the detachments report to the city and city council on an ongoing basis. Many of the municipalities have what are referred to as safety committees. The RCMP detachment commander reports to the safety committee, provides them with advice. They obtain guidance from the city, from the mayor. So it's a very interactive process. The city has input into the selection of detachment commanders. So it's a different model entirely from the municipal police board model, but there is civilian involvement. In fact, it's very direct. It is directly with the municipalities. So, those are 3 points that just jump out at me.
It has been, I believe, a month since the City of Surrey filed their petition that the province doesn't have the jurisdiction to force the transition. And the province responded saying that it was updating the Police Act to make the jurisdiction clearer. What stage is the petition at that you're aware of?
Right. Well, that petition is still before the BC Supreme Court.
Okay.
And you're quite right. Since it was filed, the legislation came in and now this most recent move. So certainly Surrey's lawyers are examining both those intervening events to see what impact they may have on the petition. But the petition is certainly before the court, and we certainly look forward to what the court has to say about it.
Okay. Would you also classify this latest move by the province as outside their jurisdiction?
Well, I'm not going to provide a legal opinion. That's for Surrey's lawyers, but
Okay.
It is just a surprising move because I don't quite understand the relationship between, as the minister said, he's concerned about the delay in transition, but this is his police board that he's suspending, and they presumably were working on the budget, which he now says that the loan administrator is going to work on. So it's very confusing.
Minister Farnworth said that the suspension or the decision to suspend the Surrey Police Board was made upon the recommendations from advisor Jessica McDonald, former deputy minister to former Liberal Premier Gordon Campbell. She was appointed by the province last July to oversee the transition. Minister Farnworth has also cited a lack of progress by the City of Surrey in the transition. If you could provide us what work has actually been done in the transition so far.
Yeah, so first of all, I have never met with Jessica McDonald, although city officials have.
Okay.
I don't know what exactly her recommendation was, other than what the minister is telling us. But Surrey has certainly been a participant in transition meetings. There have been lots of discussions. Where there hasn't been discussion is of this recent move. It was somewhat unilateral, and the mayor was simply advised yesterday that it's taking place.
As for Mayor Locke, where does she stand in response to criticism from the province that the city of Surrey is blocking the transition?
What evidence is there that the city is blocking the transition? I mean, currently there are about 200 Surrey Police Service officers working with the RCMP on the front line. So it's really a case of the RCMP has been doing its best to integrate Surrey Police Service members, but still the great bulk of members at that detachment are RCMP officers, and that is the huge issue that nobody is talking about. How can you possibly transition when you need something like 400 police officers to replace the RCMP officers? There aren't 400 police officers out there waiting to take those positions. So that's the overriding concern here that people aren't talking about.
But if they did find those numbers, whether from other jurisdictions or even from the RCMP, if they could provide those numbers, then would this be something that is accepted and can continue forward? If that's such a big sticking point. Well,
it's a practical problem. Mm-hmm. What Mayor Locke has repeatedly said is this is about dollars and cents. And the transition itself is not founded on any public safety grounds. That has not been an issue. And the cost estimated by the City of Surrey's own officials is, as you mentioned in your question to the minister, somewhere in the area of a minimum $464 million over 10 years. That leads to huge tax increases. And that's what the mayor has been fighting since she was elected.
And that's fair, although Minister Farnworth did say that they have seen varying numbers. But also, I would think, as has been pointed out by some, that with each step of sort of rebuttal by Mayor Locke, there is a cost associated with this. Is there a certain point where perhaps the city itself will have to say this fight is costing too much, and we need to, sort of reconcile that?
Yeah, I mean, we're comparative numbers. The cost of litigation is small, minuscule by comparison to what I just mentioned and what you mentioned, $464 million. I mean, a court case is finite. It will end at some point. But this is an ongoing cost to taxpayers. We're talking hundreds of officers. So, it's sort of like apples and oranges.
Municipal elections in BC have historically had very low turnout. Is there a danger that this move will sort of further alienate voters from participating in municipal elections if they feel that what they voted for isn't recognized, doesn't come to pass? Is this sort of going to have a trickle-down effect in those numbers?
Well, I'm not a politician. I don't pretend to be an expert on electoral issues. I suppose you could argue that one two ways. You could argue that Surrey residents may be upset by the decisions made by the province and turn out in overwhelming numbers, or on the other hand, they may become alienated and not turn out. I don't know the answer to that one. That's for the pollsters, I suppose.
I suppose, and we'll just have to wait and see what occurs from that. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today. It's always much appreciated.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you.
Peter German is the founder and principal of Peter German and Associates law firm and former RCMP deputy commissioner. He's been retained by the city of Surrey. And we are back with BC Solicitor General Mike Farnworth. Good afternoon once again, Minister. Sorry for all of those technical challenges.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. You were listening to some of what Peter German was saying. What do you make of his arguments?
I understand that he's working for the city of Surrey, but I would like to make a couple of points. One, in reference to boards, and advisory committees that many RCMP detachments have with their local communities. They have absolutely no statutory authority whatsoever, unlike a police board, which does have statutory authority under legislation. And I think that's a very important distinction. The other issue is that right now, in terms of if you are calling for a police officer in Surrey, 50% of the time you're attended to by a Surrey Police Service member, 50% of the time you're attended to by an RCMP member. The decision was made to continue the transition to the Surrey Police Service was made based on a thorough, comprehensive analysis of information from the RCMP, vacancy rates across the province, and making a decision that's based on the best interests on behalf of the province of British Columbia for policing across British Columbia, not just the city of Surrey, and that going back was not the right way to proceed. And again, I reinforce the issue around funding. That is why we put the $150 million on the table, because the numbers that we verified was the numbers that the city of Surrey gave us, which was the $30 million a year. And that's what we've seen. That's what we verified. That's why we put that additional funding on the table. And at the end of the day, what the people of Surrey want is they want this issue resolved and over. The decision has been made. It is going to take place. The court case has no bearing in terms of the transition continuing. The court case is actually a judicial review. It's not about overturning the decision.
How do you? Oh, sorry.
And so what we want is to make sure this transition proceeds expeditiously. That's why the administrator is in there. I have spoken to every single board member on this, and they all believe that this is the right approach, the right decision that we've made.
How do you think the city of Surrey can move forward with the Surrey Police Service once the transition is made? It seems there will be so many layers of feelings and perhaps resentment. How can they move forward with it once, if it is in place?
You know what? This is a police service for the city of Surrey.
Okay.
And it's about the people of Surrey. The mayor and the council, or some members of council, may have a different point of view, and I understand that and respect that. But this is about the people of Surrey, and they know a decision's been made, and what they want now is that transition to be completed, and they want people to get on with it.
Do you think this is the last step?
I certainly believe that this is the key step in terms of ensuring that the transition continues in a smooth way and in an expeditious way.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us twice, as it was, and we'll certainly be in touch in the future.
My pleasure.
All right, take care. BC Solicitor General and Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth. The total number of visits to food banks in BC has increased by over 50% since 2019. In rural communities, the increase rises to 100% in that same time period. The cost of food, low wages, and the cost of housing are the primary reasons that new food bank clients cite. 2 weeks from today, Friday, December the 1st, is our annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day. Our secure online donation site is open now, and I'll give you the information in a minute about where to find it. But first, here is a food bank client to share her story.
My name is Natalia. I'm 63 years old. I'm a senior citizen. I have a physical disability and I have mental disability. That's why I'm a person with disability. And the reason why I couldn't work more because of my age, and food bank helped me. Number one is egg, to have energy in the morning. The milk, the vegetables, the chicken, which I need most of the time, and the fruits and the bread, everything they have. So I'm glad that the food bank is helping the community so much. I think it is very, very important for people to donate in the food bank. The people really in need.
And thanks to Natalia for sharing her story. Friday, December 1st is the first food bank day, or is our next food bank day. You can go to cbc.ca/food bank day, and when you're there, there is a drop-down menu, and you can choose the food bank you would like your donation to go to. That's cbc.ca/food bank day, and Michelle will be hosting a special 3-hour edition of BC Today with Margaret Gallagher, host of North by Northwest. And coming up, it's Friday, and that means it's time for our pet segment. Today, we're talking about fostering pets, and we're looking forward to you sharing your questions and hopefully your experiences with taking in a short-term pet and how important that can be. That's coming up right after the 12:30 news with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Flu and RSV are on the rise in this province, but the BC Centre for Disease Control says cases of COVID-19 appear to be falling. The centre released its weekly update and confirms COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all down after peaking in the first week of October. 25 people died in BC last week from complications related to COVID, a significant decline from 70 deaths 3 weeks ago. Indigenous tourism businesses can now access $25,000 grants. It's part of a new program launched today by the federal government. Ottawa says the Indigenous tourism industry was one of the hardest hit by the pandemic. And Kamloops RCMP have arrested a 38-year-old man accused of shattering the windows of more than a dozen buildings overnight. He's facing a charge of mischief linked to vandalism, mainly in the Sahali neighborhood. He is scheduled in court today. And now the forecast on the north coast. Lots of rain this afternoon with strong winds and a high of 10. Highs reaching 11 with a mix of sun and cloud in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, cloudy and windy with a high of 4 degrees. Highs up to 3 with sunshine in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, sunny with a high of 4. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon with highs around 9 degrees. I'll have more local news at the top of the hour. Now back to Amy Bell with BC Today.
Thank you, Robert, and welcome back. And thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, streaming live on CBC Gem and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. Now, there are so many pets that need a forever home, but there are also many pets that need something just a little less permanent. And so many people open their homes and their hearts to foster pets, both short and long term. But what does that process look like? Do you wonder if fostering would be a good fit for you and your family? We'd love to hear from you today. I'd love to know if you've fostered pets and what your experience was. And maybe you have questions or concerns about the whole process. You can always call us 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733, star or pound 690 on your cell phone. And you can email bctoday@cbc.ca. Now, joining us today is Lindsay Baker, the BC SPCA's Senior Manager of Volunteer Resources. Hi, Lindsay. Thanks so much for coming in studio.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is such an important topic. It's been very important in our family at times. We have a cat, we have a dog, and we sometimes think, should we add to our home? And sometimes wonder, if fostering would be a way for us to sort of experience growing our family and our pet family. But I think first, let's start with the basics for people. What exactly is fostering a pet? How does that work? What is it?
Yeah. So basically, fostering is providing a safe, loving, temporary home for an animal in need. Often these are young, under-socialized animals that could really benefit from being in a home environment and also maybe not be suited for a shelter environment because they don't have all their shots and things like that. So it's a great way to give these animals an opportunity to prepare for adoption and to get some of those necessary skills. And it's a wonderful way for volunteers to, connect with many animals and make a really big impact in their lives.
And I think sometimes, there's maybe been a misconception that a lot of the animals that would be placed into foster care, it's because, maybe they have an issue or they haven't been able to find a home or they are misbehaving. But that's not the case. You were saying some of them are just so little and they need to be in a much safer environment.
Yes, absolutely. So puppies generally go into foster right away. And also we have situations where, with the wildfire season,
Yeah.
we had a lot of families that couldn't evacuate with their pets. So foster volunteers stepped in and were able to provide those home environments for the animals to live in temporarily until they could be reunited.
Right. And that's something that is so important and often forgotten because pets are such a part of the family. They are family members, but they do sometimes not have that same status. So they can't always go with the families, and that's when people need to step in.
Absolutely. And, with fostering, they kind of become part of your family as well. So you get to have that connection with many different animals
Right.
and to know that you're making a really big impact on their chance to find a forever home.
Right. And that's it, is that, I guess ultimately you're looking for a forever home, and not everybody can provide that, but you can sort of provide that stopgap and just, I guess, fill them up with love and fill them up with good food and snuggles and hope that, I guess, sets a foundation for them.
Absolutely. And, it's wonderful for the volunteers as well. It gives you a lot of purpose and joy and fulfillment. I know I fostered before and definitely brought a lot into my life. And fostering is also perfect for people that, maybe aren't able to make a long-term commitment at this moment in time.
Okay.
Maybe they want to travel, or maybe the financial costs of pet ownership aren't an option. So with fostering, the BCSPCA, provides the food, the supplies, the veterinary care that the animals need. And you provide the loving home and all
Wow.
the time and to spend with them.
So there's really the onus of taking care of that pet is not on the foster parent, because I love my animals, but they are expensive.
Absolutely. It does add up, and especially with rising costs,
Yeah.
sometimes that's out of reach for people right now. So fostering is a great way. For me personally, it was a way to experience pet guardianship and decide if that was the right choice for me. And I ended up actually adopting my foster animal in the end.
Okay. See, I was going to talk about that at the end, but we'll talk about that in a second. I just want to make another push for calls, because I know so many people do foster and maybe have some questions about how the process works. Like I was very surprised to find out there is no cost. I assumed you would take those on temporarily, but that is great for so many people. Call us, please, at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And please email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. Just share your experience as well. Have you taken in foster pets? What was the pet? What was your experience? Did you end up keeping that pet? Did it make you realize perhaps pet ownership wasn't for you? We have Lindsay Baker from the BC SPCA here to answer your questions and to give us more insight. You talked about how you took in a foster and that led to you adopting the pet. Mm-hmm. Is that sort of the hope? Is that the ideal ending for these relationships? Or, I've heard people refer to it as a foster fail because they were not able to let that animal go.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's not necessarily the final outcome.
Okay.
It does happen occasionally, but we have many fosters that have fostered actually hundreds of animals, and they really like the fact that they can, connect with many different animals and really make a strong impact on multiple animals' lives.
Okay.
So there's definitely many different ways to foster.
Sure, but there are those times when you just know this is my pet.
Yeah, sometimes that bond is strong and there's the
Yeah.
opportunity for adoption. Of course, not all the animals that come in might not be available for adoption. The situation with the wildfire situations
Right.
or where you're doing emergency boarding, obviously those animals already have families.
Exactly, and we don't want to take them away. How popular is fostering? I don't really recall, perhaps when I was younger growing up, I didn't really hear about this happening very often, but it seems quite common now. Is that just because, through social media we're seeing more of it, or has this become a much more widespread movement in terms of taking care of animals?
I would say definitely since the pandemic, it seems like fostering is on the rise. We have over 1,000 committed individuals who are signed up to be foster volunteers
Wow.
across the province, which is amazing. But the need is also rising as well, with a lot of young animals coming in. And
And why is that? Why are there so many, over the course of the pandemic, everybody wanted pets and they're trying to foster them now. So why are we seeing so many more pets coming up for fostering?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the financial challenges sometimes is a reason. Sometimes it's life circumstances. And sometimes, they can't find pet friendly housing. And so sometimes it's a choice between, finding a place to live or staying with their animals. So there's a lot of different factors that could impact that.
And that must be very difficult for somebody to have to make that choice between housing, affordable housing perhaps for themselves or their children and their pets. So this is where fosters can step in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And what is, I guess, the step, the way you would go about if somebody is, perhaps listening today or has thought about it in the past and they're like, I'd like to do this. I want to be a foster. Then what?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we love to hear that. If you can go to our website at spca.bc.ca/volunteer, then you can actually find out some more information about the process of fostering, and you can submit an application to a center that's located near you. Okay. And generally, the next process is an application form where we ask you some questions about the types of pets that you would like to foster, a little bit about your home environment, so that we can make sure that we get a really good match between you and the foster. And then we also connect you with one of our staff members so you can ask more questions about the foster experience, and they can learn a little bit more about the volunteer fosters as well.
All right. And so it's not, sort of a first come, first, it's not just a case of like you sign up and they're like, oh, this is the next pet available. There is a big effort to make sure that, it's the correct pet that would suit, your personality and your home and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be, that good connection between, your family environment, your home environment, and the types of animals that you feel comfortable fostering. So we do pair fosters up with animals according to experience as well. So, and we do also provide a lot of training for our foster volunteers. Okay. So it's a great way to learn about, pet guardianship, about animal behavior, and how to reduce fear, anxiety, and stress in animals.
Okay. I believe we do have a phone call. We'll head to Rhonda in Surrey. Hi, Rhonda. Thanks for calling in.
Yes. My only experience with a foster was I went to a rabbit rescue organization.
Okay.
So first of all, I had to bear the cost of everything except the cage. Secondly, this rabbit had been caged for a good number of years, hadn't been spayed, hadn't been socialized, because my kids wanted a pet, and they were older kids. This rabbit did not like us, and anytime you tried to feed it, it tried to bite you. And this woman said, "Oh no, they're not like that. They're just like cats. You can play with them and pet them." No, not at all. Okay. And we had no training, help. So finally, I had to give it back because I said, "This is just not working out." And it was too bad because I understand they are overrun with rabbits that people buy, and rather than let them out, they try to foster them. But it was not a positive experience, so I wouldn't ever consider a rabbit again. I eventually got a couple of cats, and then during the pandemic, my two cats died. They were elderly and sick and so on.
I'm so sorry, Rhonda.
And I couldn't get a cat for love nor money, and I went to Vorka, I went here, I went there, and I wasn't even looking for a kitten. I was looking for an adult. So I ended up, by accident, purchasing two more cats.
I think I just heard one in the background.
Yeah. But, it didn't discourage me from wanting to foster an animal, but right now I've got two, and the place where I live only allows a maximum of 2 cats. Okay. You can't have a dog.
All right.
So, if I had been able to get another cat through, I didn't even know the SPCA had a fostering program.
Oh,
otherwise, I probably would have gone there.
Well, now you know, and hopefully for next time. Rhonda,
hopefully it'll be a while, but...
Do you wish that when you had started that initial, I guess, journey to foster the rabbit, do you wish they'd been just a bit more honest about its temperament and what it entailed, and then you could have made an informed decision?
Oh, definitely, because when the woman picked it up, she says, no, maybe it's just the way you're handling it. It tried to bite her, too.
Oh, okay.
She put her hand in the cage. It was not a friendly rabbit.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And that is the case. Not all fostering relationships are the correct one or work out properly. But I'm so glad, Rhonda, that you pushed ahead and you did manage to foster a couple of more animals. I believe we've got or actually, Lindsay, I'll ask you a question first. We do hear a lot of rabbit rescue organizations struggling to find foster homes. What is that? Is that there's just so many, or is it they've gotten a bad rap, perhaps?
Yeah, I think there's also, there are a lot of rabbits. I mean, I think that's the third animal that comes into our shelter the most.
There are so many.
And I think a lot of people maybe don't know what it's like to foster a rabbit. So this is where you can connect with our animal care staff and really learn a little bit more about what does it actually mean to foster a rabbit. We definitely have some fosters that love to only foster rabbits because they've realized that they're actually really great pets to have in the home.
Right.
So, and that's why we stress really the training and that matching process. As part of the screening process and onboarding process, because that's so critical.
Yeah.
And rest assured, if a placement isn't working out, you're in regular contact with our staff, and you can always bring the animal back if the fit is not right, and potentially try again with another animal.
Okay. That's, as you said earlier, there's a process that people go through to match them with an animal that, has, I guess, the temperament that they need and the needs that they can take care of. So that's good to know. We have another call now from Mary Ellen in Burnaby. Hello, Mary Ellen.
Hello there.
And I think you had a fairly positive fostering experience. Did you want to share that with us?
Yes. I was approached by the Rescue Society that I had a particular breed for the last 20 years, and my dog passed away in the summer. So I was thinking of volunteering for interim fostering, and they approached me sooner than later. They had the need, and I thought, yes, so this was an older dog, taken into rescue, malnourished, not socialized, not walked, in diapers 24/7. Oh. And this needed medication, needed medical baths every 4 days. So lovely temperament. I'm familiar with the breed, the 15-pound size. And for 2 weeks, I said, yes, I can do it. And having just lost my dog 3 months before, it filled the hole in my heart. So this dog met 16 other dogs, 4 children, I walked her in suburban streets. She got used to traffic noises and other dogs walking by, people. So, and it was nice to be able to give her back. And get my freedom back, too.
Right.
Her schedule was quite demanding, and that it was similar to my elderly dog's schedule as well. So all good.
So you're familiar with it, but and thank you for providing that care to a dog, an animal that needed it so much, but also how wonderful that it could provide you with a little bit of love that you were missing and a little bit of that relationship. Thank you, Mary Ellen. I think that's how it should be. It's not always these puppies. It's not always this happy, joyful experience. There can be some grief involved in it, and it can be, stepping in to provide the care that they so desperately need. Is that something that people don't always consider, that it can be, perhaps end-of-life care or a much older dog that has, extraordinary needs that they'll have to address? Is that something some people aren't prepared to do, or something that maybe more people would want to step in to fill that role?
Yeah, a lot of people might not realize that we do need specialized care fosters that provide sort of that medical type of care, or for animals with medical needs.
Right.
And definitely those are, hero fosters that are providing that level of care, and especially people that are experienced animal guardians. They would be wonderful medical care fosters, and yeah, so people might not realize that all sorts of animals can benefit from being in a foster environment, and can benefit from that personalized care.
Right. And you know, as we mentioned, the benefits that the person can get as well. Sometimes it is so nice to step into that role and to be needed and to know how to take care of something. You know, and when she was missing her dog, that's something I haven't considered. It can sort of ease that hole in your family and your life. We've been following along in the media, in the newsroom. We've been following along Frank the Tank. The tortoise that was he was abandoned in a Richmond spinach field.
Oh dear.
This was last month. I didn't know if you were aware. So
No.
you know, the incredibly large tortoise, and when they were saying, you know, looking for foster and adoption, people needed to be aware of his needs and this destruction and all this. You know, is that a very unusual circumstance, or do these sort of more exotic, not odd, but unique pets come up, or is it pretty much, you know, you have cats, dogs, rabbits, and that's it?
No, there potentially are other animals as well. They're definitely much less frequently. I mean, majority are dogs,
massive
cats,
tortoises
and
coming in
rabbits.
all the time.
But sometimes we get birds, we
Okay.
get rats, we get guinea pigs, all sorts of different things. So
Right.
there's a real variety.
Okay.
So we need a lot of small fosters as well. I should put that out there.
Yeah, we don't often think about that of taking in a foster rat, but you know what? Why not? They need love too. We've got an email from Lenora, and she writes, our 9.5-year-old cat, Toasty Rose, I love that name, was rescued from a cat colony. We are forever grateful to the folks who provided health care and socializing to a brand new kitten for 3 months until she was ready for her forever home. I can attest to that. My dog was a rescue. So he was in a foster home for the first 4 months before we took him. And he came to us so accepting of affection and so he felt so safe around humans. And we've never had a chance to meet them, but I've always been thankful for that foster family for doing that. And that is something that, you know, is important. People are sort of these placeholders to I guess, teach small pets, you know, that humans are good. Humans can love you. Humans can take care of you, and you can trust them. That's important.
Absolutely. That socialization is so critical in that human-animal bond.
Yeah.
So fosters play an incredible role in making sure that, you know, these animals have the skills and the comfort they need to actually, go into their adoptive homes.
We have a call now from Lucy in Victoria talking about her son and his roommate. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Lucy in Victoria. My mistake.
That's okay.
So close. So tell us about your son and his fostering experience.
Yeah, so we've always had cats. He has not known life without cats. And when he went away to university in Ontario, he really missed having a cat. And he and his roommates last year started fostering cats. So it works out really well because they're not on the financial hook
Right.
for the cats, even though they have bought a lot of things for the cat.
You can provide extra treats.
Yeah. And so I think they're on their fourth foster now. It provides them with that emotional support that students could use, where they have somebody to pet and love. It means that they can also say, I'm sorry, we're going home for Christmas. I need you to adopt the cat now, and or take the cat back. But actually, I just overheard, I was doing something, but I heard you talking about medical, and as well, because he has grown up with cats. I think several of the cats they've had have had medical needs that, they come to our son. The second last one was so emaciated, had one eye removed, and it was the most wretched looking creature I've ever seen when he first got it. And, 2 months later, somebody adopted it because they had done all the medications they needed to. It had filled out, and it was a lovely cat. So the current cat they're fostering was just really shy and timid, and, with the love and affection, it's coming out.
Sometimes that's all it takes, and I love that. You have these university students. I love that because we typically will think, they're partying, they're focused on their studies, but it can be so beneficial to have that relationship with an animal at any stage in your life. What are some of the main benefits you would say to perhaps children that will be in the family of a foster? What can they sort of learn and benefit from this relationship?
So definitely, learning about animals, caring for them, and, definitely it's been shown to, be good for our mental health and to provide this comfort. And also, you get out for walks if you have a dog. I can tell you
Yes,
4
you
or
do.
5 times a day. So it's always good to get out.
The weather, you're out there.
Fresh air. That's always fun too. So really a lot of great life skills around, caring for another being.
Right. And sort of, having that selflessness a little bit, taking care of something other than yourself. One thing I'm always curious about, though, which has stopped me, I guess, from fostering and maybe other people is saying goodbye. I always feel that, I always worry that if any animal was in my house longer than a couple of hours, I'd be like, you're mine. Yeah. And I'd end up with 8 dogs, which is fine for many people. But, how do you sort of prepare yourself for that and steel your heart against that? What do you recommend?
Yeah, definitely. I know the emotional aspect really gets people. And when I first started fostering myself, I didn't know that the animal was going to be up for adoption. So definitely I found going in with the mindset that it's a short-term thing and focusing on really, your goal of helping this animal potentially go back to their home or be adopted, or just really enjoying every moment that you have with the animal. And sometimes people also think, what is the next animal that I'm going to be able to help? So thinking ahead to that next opportunity as well.
Right. We did have one listener write in, and it's Mark from Surrey. He was just wanting to ask you, he's wondering if fostering is right for him. He just renovated his home, but he's hesitant to get a cat in case of damages. Is this something you need to sort of be prepared for?
There's always the possibility of that with any animal. So definitely something everybody needs to evaluate for their own situation. We do ask for fosters to have a room that could be dedicated to the animal that has, closing door, a window. So if they ever needed to kind of be in their own space, they could be in that.
Do that.
So that's another option as well, is sometimes they're in that dedicated space.
Fair enough. It's kind of like having a kid. You just have to have a playroom and just close your eyes and close the door and call it a day. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us and explaining a little bit more about the process, because I think it's so important. People need to know all these different options. So thank you. All right, Lindsay Baker, Senior Manager of Volunteer Resources with SPCA. And that is our show for today. My thanks to everyone who called in and joined the discussions through the week. A huge thank you to the BC Today team, Melody Jacobson, Rachel Adams, Miriam Gamar, Alan Regan, George Baker, Mashid Hadid, Greg Kisser, and Bradley Stewart. You can listen to the show again on the CBC Listen app and watch on demand on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. I'm Amy Bell, in for Michelle Eliot. I hope you have a lovely weekend.